Hi YouTube, Darth here. Another day has passed in the pre-release event for the next DLC, Final Stand. Day 4 of the Final Stand pre-release DLC brought us the Hammerhead map, which is a snow map with an ice lake surrounding a submarine base. If this sounds a little familiar, the map concept is very similar to Wavebreaker in Naval Strike, but this time there's a lot of armored vehicles instead of a lot of boats. The interior housing the submarine complex is also brand new. But I've got to say it now, of the 4 maps we've seen so far, without a doubt, this is my definite favorite. It's got a setup similar to Giants of Corellia and Hangar 21, where there's a sizable outside portion and a bunker-like inside portion. However, unlike those 2 maps, the infantry segment is actually in the center and draws the focus of the map. On the other 2, I feel that the more interesting portions of the map are just tucked away to the side. The difference is very noticeable, and there's always tons of action in the center as the map flows into this point in a much better way. I like action, and Hammerhead delivers better pacing than the other maps. There's always something to do, and pretty much something for everybody on this map. If you like vehicles, this map has a plethora for you. If you want to snipe, there are very long lines of sight and high places to get into. And if you like infantry action like me, there's a constant stream of enemies trying to take the middle 2 points. The map's vehicles consist of 2 main battle tanks, 2 IFVs, multiple snowmobiles, a transport helicopter, and a stealth jet in the starts of either faction. Additionally, the hover tank makes a comeback on this map with a hover tank available on each side at the closest flag to the spawn. Finally, there are 2 attack helicopters which are located in interesting positions away from any flags. They're on the helipads on either side of the mountain in the center, so it's a bit of a stretch to get to them. But other than that, the map is very solid. Even running around outside, I don't feel like I'm doing so under the view of half the enemy team. The sightlines on Hammerhead don't allow vision to the entire map, unlike Hangar 21. The whole map just flows better, and there's a real dynamic that happens between the outside and the inside. I'd often see one team with the outside points and the other team with the inside points. So it's really easy to find your whole team stuck on the inside of the submarine base, and there's a fun moment in the game where this would often flip around. This is the only map where I didn't feel like I was constantly lost or constantly in danger of being shot by some unforeseen sniper 2,000 meters away. More importantly, when I was on foot, I didn't feel like I was miles away from the fun. The frustration factor on this map was just not there for me, and I had a lot of fun. Unlike the other maps of Final Stand, I really don't have much in the way of negatives to mention. About the only detraction is that the exterior mountain can lead to some confusion if you're inside the sub-base, as enemies will appear on your minimap when they're not even inside the sub-base. This multi-level minimap problem is one I'd love to see DICE tackle, as I feel there are a number of times when it detracts from this expansion. And not just on this map, as Corellia, Hangar, and Whiteout each have multi-level areas where the minimap arrows present some major confusion about just where they are. One other thing that this map reminded me of is that the handling on the hover tanks could probably also use some work. There's a ton of power in being able to turn on a dime, but I feel like the fine controls are extremely sticky. I tried to make a small adjustment to aim at a soldier, but I found that I just couldn't pull it off. My tank just wouldn't move if I slightly feathered my mouse in one direction. I'd always have to pull my mouse significantly left or right to get a turn in. Ultimately, I think if I couldn't go into third-person mode in this vehicle, it'd be very frustrating to try to drive this thing. With that in mind, there seem to be a number of design decisions that don't seem to have considered the hardcore game mode. Both the new gadgets only make sense if there's a minimap, which hardcore doesn't have. As I mentioned, the hover tank is pretty unwieldy to drive and will probably drive you a bit crazy if you're not in the third-person mode. If you're unfamiliar, third-person is not available in hardcore. It seems like a bit of an oversight in both cases, and hopefully DICE has something up their sleeves to give some more purpose to the gadgets. Since I haven't covered the new gadgets yet, I'll briefly mention them here since they could still change. The TDD is a secondary attachment that auto-spots enemies when you're aiming down sights. On PC, this just replaces pressing the Q key in the same situation. So I think it's of dubious use. But it'll probably be very useful to new players and console players, as my understanding is that the spot button is somewhat tricky to use on a console controller. The other device, the DS3, leaves a false marker on the minimap, so in theory you can trick your enemies into thinking you're somewhere that you're not. Assuming, of course, that the minimap even exists in the game you're playing and they're looking at it. As of Day 4, we've seen all the maps on Conquest, and in case you missed them this week, the CTE will be bringing back 2 maps this weekend. According to DICE developer TIG, Hangar 21 is going back up with the CTF game mode, and Hammerhead will be playable with Rush. If you miss out entirely, you'll have another chance again in a few weeks when DICE has had time to incorporate feedback. But that's it for today's thoughts on the pre-release of Final Stand. In the coming days, I'm going to be getting back to my regular programming. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like before you go. If you're new around here, please take a look at my channel and consider subscribing. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.